Hello all, welcome to History in 3 with Dr. JC. Today we're going to focus on Finland's World War II child refugees, also known as the sotalapset. Between 1939 and 1945 in Scandinavia, Finland specifically, there were a series of wars, 3 of them in total, fought between the Soviet Union, Russia, and Finland. Faced with the threat of Soviet invasion and bombing, some Finnish parents made the unimaginable decision to have to let their children go. And between the years 1939 and 1945, especially 1941 and 1944, this second of the 3 wars known as the Continuation War, some 72,000 children would be evacuated from Finland to other Nordic countries, most specifically Sweden. Now, as you may well imagine, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen overnight. It requires some planning. Enter Sweden, and most specifically, a very important and impactful woman by the name of Miss Maja Sandler. Now, Maja Sandler, the wife of former Swedish Prime Minister Rickard Sandler, was well known for her support for humanitarian endeavors and what we might call today a proponent of social justice movements. Moved by the reports of what was happening to the sotalapset, or the children in Finland and their plight, she began a national campaign in Sweden, Finlands sak är vår, Finland's cause is ours, alongside her husband and other notable individuals such as Hanna Rud. It's important to note here that they weren't just subscribing to some crowdfunding thing here, writing a check, swiping a credit card, saying, hey, have at it, this is good, nice cause, good luck with that. They were actually out front, traveling into harm's way themselves, traveling into Finland, into a war zone to help coordinate efforts here. An amazing example here and reflective of the Swedish heart and collective Scandinavian soul. As awareness grew and monies came into the coffers to help the krigsbarn, or sotalapset, the war children of Finland, the movement of children from Finland to Sweden accelerated. While anything but a picnic for these children, I mean, one can only imagine what was maybe going on in their individual and collective minds here. You're being dislocated from your family, only given a few belongings, you're being rushed to this train station, given an identification tag, thrown on a train, sometimes with wounded soldiers, heading then north. Once you get to Sweden, you're placed into quarantine, you're kind of picked and prodded, checked for lice, given a health check, and then held there until they can determine where you would be placed. With respect to placement of the children, Swedish authorities did the best they could. The first option was always, let's place them with Swedish families if we can. And it's important to note here that the Swedish families they were placed with tended to be of greater socioeconomic means. These were middle and upper class folks who, mind you, bore the brunt of raising these children financially themselves. This wasn't some state-funded endeavor. So a shout out to all the Swedes for sure, as it clearly is reflective of the Swedish attitude, heart, mind, and soul during the war. The same compassion for Danish Jews that I've covered in another History in 3 with Dr. JC. And yet for other children, fate was a cruel master. I mean, they were placed in child care facilities and some of them moved around from one facility to another, victims of the hard hand of war. And perhaps for some Finnish children, this just proved to be another iron fist. Yet for many others, there was also the Swedish velvet glove. And thus, while some of these sotalapset or krigsbarn, these Finnish war children, had a more apocalyptic experience, many others were witness to and recipients of hope. Hope provided by Sweden, hope provided by fellow Scandinavian or Nordic neighbors. And thus perhaps the object lesson for us all here that were the Finnish war children is that in a chaotic world, there are always people that care and that hope always does exist. And that's pretty powerful. For History in 3 with Dr. JC, thank you for tuning in to this brief window into a little known and underappreciated aspect of World War II and Scandinavian history. And I'd ask that you tune in to other History in 3 with Dr. JC episodes and keep an eye out for those that are coming in the future. Thanks again, and so long for now.